What? She's alive. She's here. I can't believe it. So I'm gonna invite some folks because I think some people think that I don't exist anymore. So I'm just chatting, nothing special. Hey there. What is going on? I am here. She's alive. She is not buried under something. Like, here's the thing. So, I've been off for a minute. Look, nobody cares, so I ain't even about to harp on that. But here I am. And I had another discussion that I wanted to have, but I ran it by my husband, and he didn't think it was a good idea. So, although I disagree with him, I still want to respect his wise counsel and not step out and do something that I may regret. So, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to have a conversation right now. So, I'm going to talk about my latest podcast. I'm going to talk about, hey there, I'm going to talk about my latest podcast because I think it does have a way to tie in with the climate of what we're experiencing, today. And I am not here to minimize anybody's experience, dismiss any pain, or pretend that nothing is happening. I'm just trying to have an enlightened conversation. So, before anybody starts misinterpreting, because in all honesty, I don't know what to do or what to say. And I am really being silent about a lot of things because I really want to gain internal insight and internal wisdom. I don't think that, hey there, I don't think that just because, something is happening that I automatically must get up and say something. I must let people know that I'm in my blackness by making a comment or making a statement. And I'm just not going to do that until I can do that with some wisdom and with some insight and research, because I think a lot of times we get on social media and we say things without really doing the research, because I really think that we all have to be responsible for the things that we say and do on our platforms. And so this past week, I was a part of a forum where it talks about personal leadership. And I really focused on how we're all leaders. And a lot of times people think that they're not a leader because they're not the one in front, or they're not the one at the podium. They're not the one with the title. They're not the one who's speaking at a meeting or what have you. We have determined that a leader is someone who kind of does everything for us. And personal leadership is really the embodiment of true leadership. And so when I was talking to this group the other day, I gave them a list of skills that make them a strong leader. And so I'm not sure what you would classify as making you a strong leader, but we all have leadership skills. And so just a couple is patience, empathy, effective feedback, timely communication, risk-taking, and the ability to teach and mentor. And those are just a few of the examples that make us a strong leader. So a leader is not just a person who is the voice. A leader is someone who makes positive decisions. And sometimes those positive decisions will eradicate change, but it's still a positive decision. And so one of the things that I talked about was, I said, what is leadership? And a lot of times people will talk about the things that I've just mentioned. And I often use the example of leadership is influence, because anytime that you can influence someone, whether it's negatively or positively, that's leadership because someone is taking on your opinion or your idea as a way of life or as a way of doing something. So If you are influencing people, you are a leader. And so personal leadership is important. So my topic Sunday was personal leadership beyond crisis and despair. So what I want to say just in a few minutes that I want to borrow from you is leadership is influence, it's preparation, and it's action. So again, leadership is influence, preparation, and action. So what I did was I took the definition of each of those words, and I just, instead of saying the definition of an influence is and the definition of preparation is, I just said leadership and what the definition of that word. So I'm going to tell you the definition of influence: the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or its effect. So in a sense, leadership is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect. Leadership is preparation. So preparation's definition is the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. So leadership is the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. Action, the definition is the fact or process of doing something, typically to achieve an aim. Hey there. Leadership is the fact or process of doing something, typically to achieve an aim. So when I talk about what is leadership, and personal leadership to be exact, we all have a personal responsibility to be leaders. And so with these platforms that we have, social media platforms or our social platforms, or leadership that we may have on our jobs, there are things that we can do to affect change. You don't have to wait for someone to tell you that you're a leader. Because here's the thing: if we would all embody the characteristics of leadership and take them on and have ownership of them, then we can affect change just by our decisions and the things that we say. So that's why I'm very careful about how I use my social media platform. And that's why what I really wanted to talk about, my husband did not think that it was wise. So wives, we can disagree with our husbands, but at the end of the day, you have to take the wisdom of that. And sometimes he takes my wisdom. He don't always agree with me, trust me. So back to this. So the one thing I want to hone in on is leadership is preparation. So leadership is the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. So I'll give the example of being ready. So I know that there are a lot of things going on social media about blackout dates and dates to not spend. And while the idea of it is great, it just can't be a one-time thing. It has to be something that you're prepared to do in case of, or in an instance. So I'll give you a perfect example. If we were to already start pooling our thoughts and our feedback and our ideas together in a collective cluster, we would say, okay, something happens again that we as a community don't agree with, we will withhold our spending from this company. Can you imagine what would happen if we made a decision as a community and said, something happens, we will not buy a specific tennis shoe? So when those people start seeing their income decrease because we stopped spending just on that item, ring-a-ling-a-ling, Mr. Senator, I need you to do something because I need them dollars to come on back. That's how you do that. You hurt people in their pocket. And so you have to have something already in place to say, let me tell you something, Mr. System. If we don't get a response with something by this time, this is what's going to happen. And people are already in position to make those things happen. One day, each time something happens is just not enough. it's about being prepared. So that's leadership. So whether that's something that's done collectively, or if you individually and your collective circle said, hey, we're going to make a difference in this space, it can make a difference in that space. It can make a difference in that space. So while I think that the effort, hey there, the effort is great, there still has to be a true plan of action. There has to be recourse for certain things and not be reactive. And that is why as I said in the beginning of this video, that I don't feel that I have to be pressured, to respond or to say something to qualify my blackness, because I don't need anything to qualify my blackness. I just show up and I'm black. But I think that we all have a responsibility for personal leadership. And so then I talked about leadership. Good leadership is contagious, and it inspires others to apply positive leadership traits in their own way with whatever it is that they're going to do. So while we all have these social media platforms, I have a friend of mine that's using her social media platform to positively inform, because there are people that are misinformed and they're only acting off of snippets or sound bites of certain things. Before you respond to something, get all of the facts, get everything that's needed to make a statement. Because that's important, because there's someone that's listening to you. There's someone that's reading that. There's someone that's making a decision based off of that. And it's wisdom. And so we have to, in this climate, we all have our varying concerns. We all have the things that we would like to see. And, you have everyone talking about, hey there, we have everyone talking about, go and get out and vote. But it's not just enough to vote. You have to vote even with wisdom. There are people that's saying, well, I don't want, former Vice President Biden. Well, what other choice do you have? If you don't like the choice that we have, what other choice do you have? And so, while to sit back and not even vote, even if it's your least favorite candidate, then there shouldn't be a complaint on November 5th, 2020, if the candidate turns out to be the same person that we have right now. So someone put something out about a month or so ago, and it showed how many votes that Hillary lost by, and how many people didn't vote in these particular states. So most people don't seem to realize that when you don't vote, you actually are voting. It's a silent vote because it didn't count. But if the person you wanted in the back of your mind to win didn't win, you technically voted for the other person. So while, I haven't been impressed with a candidate in a long time, but I still have to use wisdom to take the pros and the cons of the close to choice that I may choose, if that makes sense. I make up words, y'all know that. So if you don't like what you have right now, then it's almost like you got to roll the dice and shoot that and choose another person and hope that it comes out better, because right now you don't have a lot of options. So when I say that personal leadership beyond crisis and despair, personal leadership beyond crisis and despair means that you have some systems in place as to how you are going to lead within the personal sphere of your influence. Thank you for those of you who are just joining. I'm talking about personal leadership because it's easy for us. I saw something the other day where someone said, oh, this is just too much. I just can't take, I'm just going to buy Facebook. I'm just going to be gone. And so it's so easy for people to check out and disappear and not engage and sit back and wait for someone else to make something happen. I can say that because I'll raise my hand and be the first one to admit that I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do. And so it's easy for me to just turn the channel or turn off my social media and not do anything and hope that I wake up in a couple of days and the newspaper happens to say something that I wanted to say. I'm guilty of that. And there are a lot of people that are guilty of that. And I'm big enough to admit that that's kind of where I am, because I don't know what to do. And then for me personally, getting involved with things, like when I get involved in something, I want everybody to kind of go the long haul. And, you just don't want to invest your time and then nothing happens. That's just where I am. I could admit that. I don't know everyone's situation, and I'm not judging or guilting you into making a decision or to make a comment or whatever. It's just something to think about. That's what personal leadership is all about. So personal leadership says, what am I going to do with what I have? What am I going to do with the time that I have? What am I going to do with the influence that I have? So right now, the influence that we have are our social media accounts, because you say something and it's of reason and it's positive and it ignites a power to change, then someone shares that and they see it, and so that's how we use our influence. So, but to sit back and say nothing is an indictment as well. And like I said, I'll admit, I don't know what to do. I had to tell a friend of mine the other day who was checking on me, because she's checking on all of her Black friends. And I said, well, I don't even know what to tell you to do, because I don't know what to do. And I think that a lot of times we're afraid to say that we don't know what to do, because the experience I have in our culture is you got to be down. And sometimes we down with stuff that we don't even really understand what we're down with. Right. Thank you. It's not so, we can't complain, but now is the time for us to do something. So even if your page, because we know how the algorithms work on social media, even if you had a post that came up, every 3 days that said, investigate your vote, hashtag investigate your vote. That way, whoever you're thinking about voting for, look at their record and look at the things that you feel that can, affect change. And if you feel that that's a qualifier for your vote, then vote, but just don't not vote. And we have to help people understand that. And there's a lot of young people that are hurting and they don't know what to do. And so they only know to take the streets. But for those who are in our sphere of influence, we have to inject positive. Thank you. Do your research. We have to inject positivity, and we have to inject information, and we have to inject wisdom, so that when our young people are out there making decisions, to make the change, they're making informed decisions. And that's really what it's all about. And so personal leadership, like I said, is influence, preparation, or leadership. My definition is influence, preparation, and action. So my call to action to anyone who watches this video is, how will and how do you influence? How will you prepare? And what action will you take? And sometimes it's really just a conversation, because sometimes we all work in diverse environments, and it could be something as simple as just sitting down and having a simple conversation with someone. Sometimes that's what it takes. It's just a simple conversation, and you would be surprised at how having a conversation can get someone to say, you know what, I never thought of that, and I appreciate you sharing. And now they take a different approach in their sphere of influence. And as that happens, then someone gets it and they make it in their sphere of influence. Personal leadership. So yes, am I angry? Absolutely. Am I pissed off? Absolutely. Do I want to see something happen? Absolutely. But the question is, what can I do in my sphere of influence to make something happen? I am angry. And anyone who's watching this video has someone who works for a police force. It could be someone in your city or, somewhere else. But I know several people who work for the police department, and all of those people that I know are not representative of what we see when things like this happen. So we have to first know and understand that, they're individuals who happen to just be a part of a system. And no more than I want to be blamed for every poor Black experience that someone else has. The police officers don't want to be pulled into that together either. And so I have great people that I know, white and Black, who are just as appalled as we are. And my personal statement, and this has nothing to do with how you who's listening may feel, is that I can't take it out on all of them because of what someone else did. There are bad apples in everything. There are bad apples in everything. But there's some things that we tend to forgive more than others. So if we're getting a gain from something, we'll find a way to kind of just look over it and keep it moving. Because there are offenses that happen every day in every profession, and we let those things slide. So, right. I know, I think I remember that you do have family members that work in here, and I have, they're great people. And what we have to understand is when something like this happens, they get a knot in their stomach because they can almost imagine what's coming next. And they're getting blamed for something that some guy did. And I just don't think it's fair. So you can classify my statement however you want, but I'm speaking from the standpoint of a person who has friends in law enforcement. And I've met other people and have been in settings with a lot of Charlotte Mecklenburg finest. And I think it's awful what happened to, Mr. Floyd and, everyone before him. And I think the key is the communities coming together and engaging with the police. And I think conversations must be had. And it just can't be that we have a conversation because something happened. 6 months from now, when there's not a whole bunch of talk about Mr. Floyd, there still should be conversations that are going on. And those things usually stop after it dies down until something, and then now we want to talk, but no, we have to keep going. Right. That's what happens, and at the end of the day, like, if I were a police officer or, my husband was a police officer, we would probably be having a conversation about making a change. And see, now what happens if all of them decide to quit? We'll have law, but no order. Because the laws will still be on the book, but we won't have anybody to enforce that. And so a lot of it starts, with conversation, and the conversation has to stick, and then you have to keep kind of pushing it forward for things to change. I don't know where I'm going to land, but I know that I am intending to get connected with the right sources that are having conversations to impact change. And you may want to consider that too. But in the meantime, as I stated, personal leadership, we all have our sphere of influence through our devices. Every day we see stuff. They got the saying out there, say, see something, say something. But if we don't want to deal with it, the easy thing for us to do is keep scrolling. So just keep scrolling and pretend that it doesn't happen. Or we log off our social media accounts, or we don't turn on the news. What did I say earlier? Guilty. So I'm going to own mine. Because I don't know what to do. And I'm not ashamed to say that I don't know what to do. So thank you for checking in. Oh, the last thing I want to say about leadership, it's not one voice. It's a collection of voices aimed toward a common goal. So what I mean by that, it's not for me to get on a platform and start being the voice for all of the community or all of the people who are disheartened, because it's not just people that look like me that are disheartened. There are a lot of people that are disheartened by this, and they're upset and they're pissed off and they want to see change. But it's a collection of voices. So when when a collection of voices come together, then there's a spokesperson, and that spokesperson is saying things on behalf of those collected voices, and that's what we must do. And so for a lot of people who don't know what to do, because you know why we don't know what to do? Because we're so tired of this happening. But I'm gonna tell you my idea. Here's my personal idea, and I don't even know if it's possible, but if I get enough information to push it, may start talking more about it. So we always get concerned when things like this happen throughout the country, and then we're upset because of, you know, the choices that the prosecution makes, how they decide to prosecute the case. And what we have to understand is that every state has different laws. Very tired, girl, very tired. Every state has different laws. So if the same exact thing, the same circumstances were to happen in North Carolina, just as they did in Minneapolis, it will most likely be handled differently when it comes to the law, because Minnesota and North Carolina have different laws. But here's where the consistency occurs on the federal level. So if we were to push for the fact that when things like this happen, that it becomes for the attorney general, and he or she takes the case. It's not done on the local level, because as you know, well, you should know if you watch like Law and Order and all those other stuff, the prosecution and the police work together. Now, they don't always agree, but they work together. So if I've been friends with this particular police officer for years, we've even had some different events that we've done together, personal things, and then now an egregious act occurs, which results in a questionable death, because that's what they call it, a questionable death. They don't call it murder, because if a citizen had done that, it would have been murder. But when an officer does it, it's a questionable death. When something like this happens, the attorney general does not have a relationship with the local police officer. So technically, he ain't got no dog in the fight, except to do what's right according to justice and the federal law. And I think that if these things were handled on the federal level, some people wouldn't be so quick to do that. Just my thought. Take it as you want it. But it has to be one justice and not 50 ways of justice, because that's what it is. Remember that song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover? Slip out the back, Jack. Make a new plan, Stan. You don't need Nicole Roy. Just listen to me. 50 ways that 50 different states would handle that situation. So we can't expect the same thing to happen or to be done how it was done in another state, because they're all different. I still ain't got no sense, Mickey. But I gotta lighten it up, because it's just so serious. But it's 50 ways. So, but the federal, because here's the thing, when you're indicted on the federal level as opposed to the state level, if you ever notice, they have a federal penitentiary. They have a penitentiary. So when you commit crimes against the federal government, they handle it totally different than what's handled in your local state. So that's the fight to me. It's handled by the attorney general. And then as we do that, we start pushing that same procedure nationwide. And it's the same process. Nothing different. And the attorney general should automatically step in. So those are the things that, we can consider as an approach. Or the other thing that I recommended, where You say, okay, let me tell you right now, as soon as that happens again, we stop buying that shoe. We're going to stop doing online shopping. You take as many days as people have been protesting. If we had stopped spending money in certain areas and those stocks went down, ring-a-ling-a-ling, Mr. Representative in Washington, D.C., I'm going to need you to make a decision because them people is affecting my pocket. That's how you do it. Nowadays, hold on to your credit card. So anyway, didn't mean to have y'all on here this long. I just wanted to pop on and just share my thoughts. And this video will be shareable. And like I said, these are my thoughts on personal leadership because my goal, hit them where it hurts, hit them where it hurts, in the pocket. I tell you right now, you don't go and destroy your own community. Where the old people gonna shop? That's all they have. Or the single moms or dads and the grandmas that's taking care of their grandkids. So you're right, it's not too late. So just say, you know what? Because guess what? Never mind, I'm gonna leave that alone because you gotta be careful nowadays. But anyway, you decide. That's what personal leadership is about. Personal leadership is about taking that stance and hitting the pocket, not just one day. You got to do it every day. So for every day that there was a protest, if there had been a stop of online shopping and going out and buying a tennis shoe and going to get your favorite, getting things for your cell phones, how many new cell phones were purchased in these past 10 days? How many new cell phones? How many people are still doing online shopping? Those people are still making money. It ain't even impacted. They sit back watching the news just saying, But they're still getting that cha-ching. You know how that sound happens on your Cash App? Theirs just keep popping. Keep popping. Well, if you slow it down, they'll have to say something because they have influence with the people in Washington, D.C. See, I don't have the phone number for Mitch McConnell, but the CEOs of those companies we keep shopping at, they do. Mitch, I heard that shabiggity that you said on Fox News or CNN or the news the other day. I'm going to need you to tone that down because they affected my pocket. And when they affect my pocket, it affects what I contribute to your campaign. Cyclical. See how that goes? It's cyclical. They don't care that people out in the street marching. They don't care that they throwing trash cans through windows. They don't care that they burning down. They don't care because it ain't affecting their pocket. I'm just saying. So take your sphere of influence and influence your group of people. Even if you do it once or twice a week, say something that, even if it's the same thing, shut them down. Our community are the largest, we're the largest consumers. We're the largest consumers. Do you realize that the $1 trillion that the government got the first time when they gave out all the little stimulus checks, the $1 trillion, do you realize that that is how much the Black community spends? The Black community spent enough money to give everybody a $1,200 to $2,400 check. That's some shish. Hey, think about it. The $1 trillion that the government received, and there's something behind that. I ain't gonna get into that. I can't talk about that. But what they received equates to how much money the Black community alone consumes. What's wrong with that picture? What is wrong with that picture? Think about it. So that's why I say research. Go and investigate. Watch CNBC. And you'll know who's making all the money. I'm just saying. We only want to wake up after we found out that somebody's donating to the presidential campaign. of the person we don't agree with. Well, it's already too late. They already made your money. But if you know in advance, you know where not to spend. There are certain people, I promise you, I don't even know how true it is, but years ago, I heard that Tommy Hilfiger had said something. Do you know I've never purchased anything from Tommy Hilfiger? Michael Kors, I heard something that he said. Never bought anything from Michael Kors. But yet, we lost our damn mind over Paula Deen. And ain't nobody doing that much damn cooking. I'm just saying. That's why I said earlier, we pick and choose. We pick and choose. Now, I'm going to let that one slide because I still need my Michael Kors bag. I still need my Tommy Hilfiger. I still need my this. That's why we can't affect change, because there's things that we won't live without. We're not disciplined enough. And I'm not being disrespectful. The $1 trillion speaks for itself. You don't have to hear from me. The $1 trillion speaks for itself. Think about that. Like, just process that for like a half a second. The money that the federal government, what did you just holler about? The federal government was able to issue checks to every American. So go look up how many people are in America. Yeah, Michael Kors. I can't remember where I heard that from. Look up how many people live in the United States of America. And even if you take 90% of it and do the half of what people receive, the $1,200, that is how much our community alone spends. So there is power in us withholding our dollar. So there are Black businesses that you can support. I have a lot of people on my page who have businesses. We support that. We need to start looking at those. Someone I follow named Dave Anderson. He'll probably never see this video. But someone I follow, he was talking about, you got to know where to go already. Leadership is preparation. You got to know where to go already. So I have someone who sells soap. So if I decide to withhold my money from where I buy my soap from, I got somebody already. If I decide that what I don't use, if I decide I don't want to get a certain cough syrup, I know where to go. If I want to get a shea butter, I know where to go. Already know where you want to put your dollars and start spending it there. So as you start drawing it from the mainstream and putting it back into our communities, the difference will start showing there. If we took the next 30 days and decided we were not going to do any online shopping, you know where you shop. Buy that shoe. Buy a new phone. Go get a wig. Let me say this. I just happened to think about this. Has anybody from the community where most of us purchase all of our hair and get the nails done, have you heard any of them step up and say anything? Oh, wait. Nope. They waited on the government to open back up and open the doors, and people started flooding in there. They ain't said nothing. Has a contribution been made to the different causes? You're right. Has a contribution been made from that community to help chariot the cause? Nope. Silence. But yet, we got our wigs, we got our lashes, we got our stuff. Because that's all that matters to me in this moment is I want my stuff. Think about it. During COVID, it was silent. Hey, it was silent. And now all of this is going on. They ain't said nothing. They ain't made no donation. You go in there, most of the consumers, as I just said, look like me. But I don't see nobody like me working in there. This is what I'm saying. This is what you do. Like, that's why I said research and go and check things out. and then you come back and then you make your effective statement, your positive statement, your what is it? Ability to teach and mentor, because you got to teach people, but get the right information. So something to think about. I'm gonna say it again. The trillions of dollars that the federal government was able to write checks or put in people's bank accounts a couple of months ago, that alone is what the Black community spends. Nothing, you're right. Not a peep. Not a peep. How about if we start spending there? Just because. I don't know. So silly. But I'm just saying, like, if you don't agree with something, then you make a change in the right way, because silence is agreement. So the place where you get your nails and your wig and your lashes from, silence. So is that agreement? But you still bring me your money. Let me tell you, I applaud the people that have gotten out there, and it is just great to see. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I applaud all different people that I have been seeing out there. I so applaud it, because like I said, every police officer is not like that. Every white person does not dislike Black people. You can't put all people together. Just how we as Black people want people to not judge us by our skin, but the content of our character, the same thing is owed of us. The same thing is, just because Martin Luther King said and he was Black doesn't mean that it's just for us. That's just for me. No, I can't judge every police officer. I can't judge, every white person. I can't judge every person, that does a wrong to someone else. I have to take each person individually, the same way I expect to happen to me. So thank you all for sticking with it. I didn't expect to go this long, but I hope you got something from it. And you can feel free to share this video. It may help someone, and it may not. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate. No, everyone is not the same, and I try to treat, everyone fairly. Because y'all gonna laugh about this. I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna go. So every time something like this happens, in all honesty, thank you. In all honesty, I think when something like this happened, our white America, the people who are good, the people who are just as infuriated about the injustices, as we are, they get nervous because they see us and they don't know what to say, or they don't know what to do. And you know what I do when things like this happen? I'm intentional about speaking and making eye contact. I'm very intentional. When I ride around with Starbucks gift cards in my car, and when I encounter a police officer, if I happen to see him, I say, you know what? I thank you for your service. Take this gift card. Man, you can't even imagine how that may change his next encounter with someone breaking the law. Everybody's on edge just because you're not a Black male, or you're not a police officer, or you're a white female or a white male, doesn't mean that you're not on edge. We have to kind of understand both sides, because everybody doesn't agree with what happened. Everybody doesn't agree with the inequality. Everyone does not agree with that. But if we come together and bridge ideas, then we can have this collective voice that will get a unified response and a unified outcome. So thank you guys, for tuning in. This is going to be shareable, and so I appreciate you tuning in. So thank you so much, and you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.